Hello! Welcome back to another
Hey,
Worldbuilding Wednesday, where me and Rap are going to go over the Land of Angels, the celestial realm, and all the things that may lie within. And definitely get
yeah,
sidetracked. Definitely
absolutely get
get off
sidetracked.
topic. But we're going to chill and hang out for a little bit. So,
Yeah, as usual for these Wednesday streams, it's more of a question of what will we get sidetracked by? Um, will it be
it's not a
weird
matter of if, it's a matter of
alcoholic
when.
concoctions?
Hey, Carl, how you doing?
Hey, Carl.
What's up?
um, so yeah, get straight into it.
Yeah, let's get straight into it. So we're talking about the celestial realm, Rebosa specifically. Is it's called in our setting, where a lot of the specifically ascended gods hold dominion. That's where they get pulled to. That's where their power hails from. It's where you're gonna get your angels. It's where you're gonna get all sorts of things. We'll talk a little bit of history. We'll talk about the Titan there. We'll talk about the heart tree there. But yeah. So this is a realm we really have not touched upon it much
No,
at length at all.
I don't think it's come into it at all. Actually, like we've dealt with beings from it, but not with the actual plane itself.
No, I don't think it ever. I don't even think, because
No,
you've never had to deal with one of the evil gods, so to speak, as of yet. So you've never had
No.
reason to research it.
And we really haven't had to deal with celestials in general either. Not that I can remember, at least.
I said,
So
I W this what I stopped talking about. Kyle, you good? Do you have a stroke? I don't know what that message is meant to say. You're drinking too much milk.
not enough milk, I think, is
Not enough
is
milk.
the answer.
Um,
Never enough milk.
Never enough.
But yeah. So I think one of the most interesting things, just from what I do know about Rebosa, the Land of Angels, is the history of it, in the sense that it existed before the Ascended. Despite the fact the Ascended make their homes there, and this is the land that they inhabit, it existed before then. And it had celestials and everything like that before then. So
yeah, so there was
what
angels.
was
and
it?
such.
Yeah, what was it before the Ascended came? Like, what was its role, and did it have any interactions with the material plane, or?
Oh god, that's like, remember the ascended
This is
gods hold
old, I know.
dominion, but it's also, Rebosa is also a sense of like of perfect afterlife. It is also where not like free frolicking mortal form, but like even the ascended gods, most of their demi-planes where their worshippers would go when they die, if they were
Right,
avid
yeah.
followers, would be on Rebosa. It is home to many demi-planes, and the angels were the guardians of those demi-planes.
Yeah.
Kyle said,
before the
is this the
Ascended-
thing that I distracted y'all talking about? No, you haven't distracted us talking about this yet, Kyle, but it could happen today.
Yet. So yeah, so before the Ascended came, it was really just angels sort of as caretakers of the place, so to speak.
Yeah, pretty much. They were guardians of souls that were
Yeah.
proper worship to areas. Now, before, like, you can't really talk before the great old gods, because they came into being at the very start, like when everything came to
Yeah.
be. But that's kind of the purpose. It was a land of like, of many facets of good. No, we didn't talk about Rebosa 2 weeks ago. We're going realm by realm.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago would have been
Quenthos?
negative energy?
Quenthos.
Yeah, no, it would have been Quenthos. It would have been Quenthos.
Material realm.
Yes. It would have been the material line. But look, chances are you or someone else will distract us about this, so it's still going
It
to hold true.
happens frequently and often.
So, yeah, so the angels acting as sort of caretakers over
Yes.
over this plane. Was there, or still is there, another great force that exists on the planet before the Ascended, or was it pretty much just like lots of smaller, lesser celestial?
Well, there's
creatures?
archangels.
Yeah,
So equivalent to archdevils and archfey, there's angels of such high power, like the high seraphs and such. Like, not like the one Celestia sent after you would be a minor one, but there is archangels that you could make pacts with, and beings like that now would like swear fealty to some of the ascended gods. Edwin says, so working on a plan for your campaign. Yeah, we're talking about the land of celestials, Edwin. This is our celestial realm, angels and what would have you, both good and evil gods hold dominion here. So it's not just an utmost good realm. There is areas of evil in it. And Kyle, our normal DM revoked my DMing permission. Oh. That's rough, buddy. That is rough, buddy. Why that happened? Too much milk?
What happened? So I mean, in terms of, because this is just a curious thing to touch upon, is that when the ascended, and were pulled back to the to Rebosa from the material plane, and their forms no longer being able to manifest there, was there sort of conflict or like contention between the Celestials there and the newly arrived ascended, or did it all sort of fall into the natural order of things on Rebosa?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. A lot of people, a lot of angels recognized the power that came to be with these, because I won't get into what the actual artifact of ascension is, because that information was stolen with the god Xerxes. But specifically, what an ascended god is like an upper archangel, is what the artifact of ascension turns them into. It's a celestial transformation. Okay. So archangels recognize these as other archangels that they hold dominion. Enough worship put them into rank of godhood, because they'd like that's the key thing of Rebosa, is it's above most other things. 1 second, Raf, could you just type it font size? Let's say 18.
Yeah, I wasn't sure
just
about
for
font
stream.
size.
Just say 18.
Yeah. I was typing for myself, not the stream. Need to change that.
You killed his wizard with a were rat. That's rough, buddy. That's bad. That's bad for the DM. Is this place gonna have dark something? Yeah, there's evil gods, and they also hold dominion. There's evil archangels.
There's also one particular moon of interest on this.
Yeah, we do have to talk moons.
It rotates around this place. Yeah, it's a very interesting moon.
When the artifact of ascension in Quintos, someone ascends with it, is basically it's like the inverse of dying and becoming a fiend in hell. It's ascending to angelhood and being a celestial, and through worship. It's different. It's not through souls that they gain their power. It's through prayers and worship, and that's how we have the ranking of major versus minor god. And if a minor god lost enough worship, there would be like a demotion down to just an archangel, and that would be the qualifier. Like you're gonna love when I say this, the ascended gods proclaimed themselves gods rather than actually, because like think about it, there's no one person that goes like, who told them they were gods? Like, that's the thing. Like, yeah,
which is the major issue I have with them, is that they're pretenders to divinity because they claimed it for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing about the ascended gods, is they define themselves
as heroes. Please,
sorry, I'm triggering Calicindir, but the ascended gods, they declared themselves gods among men. That was their own thing, and then they got worshipped as such, because it was like, they're obviously mortal, they're not celestial, so the mortal mind couldn't comprehend the minute distinction between the change that was happening. The most logical conclusion is, I have ascended and I now have power over the elements. I'm like, literally, as what would have been said, is I have the powers of a god, therefore I am a god. Yeah. It's like,
in reality, they're like, there's greater archangels as such.
Yeah, Edwin puts it really well. They are gods as long as there's nobody with a stick big enough to tell them that they're not gods.
Yes, exactly.
It's like they're extreme. Like, don't get me wrong, they're extremely like CR35, like high power, highly powerful creatures with many angels at their disposal, an army of angels if they really wanted it. But true deities, they are not. as we know in the setting, in our setting, is we have the old gods, which were the actual like great old ones that were powerful enough that they were like, I shape reality at a whim. Like,
yeah,
you know, you're not going to get Celelio turning around and just
life.
Yeah, exactly. Like Celelio is not just going to randomly turn around and like reshape the planet if she wanted to, but for example, the Dawn Watcher could.
And
did make the world. Like reshaped a lot of it after the fight with the Jotuns.
Yeah. And I think it actually says a lot, the fact that the Century Great Worm pulled them back beyond the Divine Gates because they went against the natural order of things.
That's it. It's like archangels
they were not meant to actually
be
No, archangels shouldn't be on the material plane because they are not gods that can manifest their forms and exist there as well as on the celestial plane.
Exactly. Now, mind you, they're extremely capable beings. Extremely capable beings. And they hold many domains and have power over many forces that, like, most are not most, any archangel really doesn't. It's the worship, like, they have minor powers, but, like, we saw it a little bit when we did the historic one shot. It's on the YouTube now for people who are curious. It's the Fall of Kaz-Karak, where you were working for the newly ascended gods. They were still pretty human in how they acted. Like, they still had human motive, human mind, and you know, they did show off like greater boons, like granting immortality or riches or whatever you would have, and like they're very, very strong, but it's just not the same. The main distinction between the ascended gods versus like a great old god in the setting is the ascended gods, much like in Theros, need worship. If they don't have worship, they don't exist. Whereas the old gods, it's like, this does nothing for me other than stroke my ego, so I'll let you be. You know, it's... Yeah,
and some of them look kindly over their followers, others don't really care.
Some are
it doesn't
benevolent,
really make a difference.
Some are malevolent.
Cruel. It doesn't really affect them. They're greater than all these beings under them.
Exactly. It's like, my creature type is not celestial. I do not need this worship.
Yeah. What creature type would they be?
God.
Aberration?
God.
Yeah, God. Yeah.
I genuinely don't think I would give them, like...
You can't really
I think we saw it a long time ago when... I think it was first edition or second edition of D&D, when they literally made, like, a book with all the stats of gods. And the problem is, the second you give stats to gods, is they're killable.
Yeah.
Like, an avatar of a god can have stats, but, like, Thor should not have stats, because... a group, like, unless you're playing a game where you're literally killing gods, like, that's the prerogative of
or unless gods in your setting are, you know, much more of a mortal sense to them. But in terms of Quenthos, you know, old gods are not on that scale. Even regents of hell are not on that. Like, shouldn't have sheets.
No, because you, like, again, if you're fighting a regent of hell, shit's already
you've lost. like, you've lost.
That's
if
it.
You're
like,
fighting one, you're dead.
I think a very, very good thing is when we were playing the Into Osiris game, we had the like you met a regent, and even though he only appeared as like a tiefling man, it's like there's still power behind that, and I think it goes to show the level of strength that the Codex Keeper had, and was not considered like even equivalent to a regent. Like, Codex Keeper was some CR 20 something odd creature.
Yeah.
And it's like, your entire thing of in that shtick was, we cannot dilly-dally long enough or alert the regent. Kyle, we're talking about what did you miss? You had something to do. We're talking about the relative power level of ascended gods in the setting versus old gods. So basically, the distinguishing factor between the two is the old gods don't require worship for power, and it does not empower them when they get worshipped. But the ascended gods require worship, and if they do not get it, they will fall from divinity and become basically just an archangel again. But I think the good thing to point out is, with enough worship, if there was like very, very much so enough worship, I would say an ascended god could almost rival an old god.
Yeah.
But
Like
I will add to this. So I don't think with the current structure of divinity, an ascended god could do it.
Yeah. However,
I think as it's a polytheistic religion in Quenthos, it can't work, because you would need all mortals to worship one deity to rival that of an old god.
Yeah.
Or, for example, all the gods worship together. All the gods could possibly fight. Like, you're talking our full pantheon of about four major gods, 13 minor gods, and 11 saints could maybe fight an avatar of an old god and win.
Yeah. So let's just say, hypothetically, for example, if Lezephican went on a mad power trip and was like, I'm going to be the only god worshipped, and went about and somehow managed to structure the material plane so all the other churches were destroyed, and they all became temples to Lezephican, College of the Storms.
Yeah.
Then that would change around.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it would require worship on that level.
It would require the entire half of the world, or if not more than the one half of the world, to be monotheistic and worship the one god. Because currently, right now, it's like they would never work together. Even like we saw what they worked together, because like the Jotuns are rivals of the old gods. This is established. When they worked together, they worked together and fought off the Jotuns. No, they didn't beat them. They just fought them off. Like, I think that's a very big distinction. Is they recovered enough ground, but I wouldn't say they won.
No, they just fought them to a standstill, and they managed to actually come across a giant who was agreeable enough and intelligent enough to end the conflict where it was.
Yeah.
Which is a Greggy, but then most other Jotuns probably would have just continued the war and probably maybe won.
It's a tense piece, but it's
whereas old gods managed to win. Like, that's the
old
difference.
gods. That thing is, there was the hubris of the dying god said, all the old gods that are winning versus, because you're talking like you had the Dawn Watcher, the Matron of the Woods, you had the Arkhammer, you had.
No, it was before the Ivern, actually.
It was when it would have been around, because you're talking the birth of those children would have been around that time.
Like the first few would have been around that
but
time.
you're talking like you have the Arbitrator, the Jeweled Wings, the Horned Serpent.
Yeah.
All of these old gods, before there was the War of the Gods, before there was evil or good gods. Kyle Wilk does work for wine, but it's just more expensive. It's $20.
Yeah. We have a price for everything, but there is a price.
Yes. But yeah, that's the thing, is all the old gods before there was the distinction of like good, evil, the infighting between them that took place. It's they as a unified force, as many old gods swept through the Draplin side and breezed over the Jotuns, and it's like, well, they still recognize the danger, and there's many old gods that died like permanently to the Jotuns.
Yeah,
like
smoking ladies take the fight the ascended gods.
That's what I'm getting at, Kate. I don't think
one smoking lady.
The ascended gods as a whole could not take down the smirking lady. Could not take down any of the old gods, because like we're gonna get into a bit of deep lore, but like talking about the smirking lady, like they choose dominion based on what they gravitated towards, of what they enjoyed in the mortal realm. Like, it's not like the smirking lady became a god of this because she had dominion over it. She was like, this area of humanity fascinates me, so I'll bless those that try this. It's like all of them are roughly in and around the same, like in terms of power. Like there's some that are drastically different, but like on an overall level.
or some who are interested by certain things over others would be like, okay,
Yeah,
like
it's like the
people who are
eccentric
also
mind
interested
was
in that,
just so
I'm gonna
blown away
listen.
by the creative forces of humanity that they're like, I want to know more about this, and then became
Yeah.
associated with it. It's not that they came into being for that specific purpose, and
Yes, but I think it's
they
very
can
interesting to
rebrand.
yeah, but it's very interesting to mention on the note of that is that unlike the ascended gods, the the power of the old gods essentially meant that they destroyed the world. That the world's downfall was on their hands because
Yeah.
of their own power and their own might. I mean, you have beings of that scale when they start to fight, when they start to confront each other. That's the issues that emerge.
Once they're not a unified front, and
Exactly.
I think we saw very, very good examples of it come up in our old campaigns, where there was like moments of history coming up at the War of the Gods, and even specifically Eraf playing in the Fall of Beck, seeing the Horned Serpent appear. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just dangerous for mortal. It's too dangerous.
Well, it's
Like
not
the Ascended
it's not
Gods
a
are
world
much.
that mortals. Yeah, it's not a world that mortals are meant to inhabit. I mean, when they start to roam around,
No.
it's
And
not a
specifically, I think
mortal
you can
world.
talk about one thing we saw an awful lot with Kel. She was a character in one of our old games. Is gods are literally toxic to mortals.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
god blight is a disease in this setting.
Mhm.
Like that's the thing. Is like, you know, if you're around a
Most of it
god,
is
you're going to
cringe, Kate.
contract god blight, and you're going to start losing your memories. You're going to start
Yeah.
like experiencing many agonies.
Is
and it's
this? But hear me out though, Des. Does the same thing happen if you make a pact with a broken old god that's shattered?
yes,
Just asking for a friend. Asking for a friend.
yes.
Does that friend have god blight?
That friend hasn't been around the physical form of a god yet.
Okay. So just got like mental god blight. Got it.
Yeah.
Um,
You've got like the
spiritual god blight.
depression version of godblight.
Hey.
But like that's the thing, is ascended gods aren't going to give godblight off to mortals. Like ascended gods, by all means,
Well, ascended
it would
gods
be
can't even appear. Like
they
physical forms-
can, but not
physical-
at will.
Yes. It's not like they're just going to appear though, like suddenly being like, yeah, I just want to come
Well,
near
they
'cause I
could,
can.
like that's the thing. But you got to think of worship as like how much money is in their bank? Because if they only got $100 in their bank, manifesting a physical form takes $1,000. Like it takes a lot to like push through that celestial barrier. Like
Yeah.
because they're breaking the natural order of things, and it's only done for a very limited time before the Jade Great Worm will pull them back. Like
Yeah, be like,
it
no,
takes-
naughty, come back with me. Yeah.
it's not impossible, but I honestly think like yeah, look, okay, that do be hitting home, and you do be buying skins in League.
Hey, Kate, can
Call
you just
it.
share in the chat? Can you just share in the chat, Kate, how much you spend on league skins?
No, he transferred his account to NA like me to reset the money spent on the account. That's big brain. No, but like that's it. I honestly think for like from an unbiased, like with imperfect knowledge, for humanity, it would be safer. I'm not going to say better or worse, but it would be safer for humanity if all the old gods never returned.
Yes. Yeah. However, it wouldn't be However, it wouldn't be safer if other beings also took an interest in the world, such as other creatures of similar scale and power decided to appear.
Oh yeah, that's the thing is like
as the existence. It's undoubtable that the existence of old gods on the Prime Material have kept it safe to some degree.
Undoubtedly, there is creatures. There is the old ones that did not want to be gods and took jealousy and tried to destroy what the old gods made. But hey yo, Cookie, what up? How you doing?
Hey, Cookie, how you going?
Yeah, as you said, there's these great old ones that would still be like fall under the great old one, like cults, you know, doomsday cult state. That the great old gods stopped. I also love how this is meant to be our chat about the celestial realm, but we got sidetracked to talk about the gods. Which you can't really talk about one without talking about the other.
Yeah, you can't. And we do need to stream talking about just deities and gods in general. We do probably need to work that out at some stage. Because there's a lot to cover. There's a lot of ground and a lot of discussion.
I think if we talk both sides all together, which... Ciao, hello.
Hey.
So, Jared, we're talking about the celestial realm in our setting, and what the different god interactions are like. Because in our setting, we've got two different types of deity. There's old gods and there's new ascended gods. We're talking about the distinction between one where the ascended gods require worship, but the old gods don't because it does not power them. Whereas if the worship of the ascended gods falls, kind of,
Yeah, they lose their power.
They lose their power. Also, Cade says, okay, but like, what if you traveled into space and void and just came face to face with a star-creating dragon, though, legally distinct? And then Cook says a star-creating dragon, a star dragon, a stargan.
Borrelian bowl, yeah.
Borrelian bowl. He's getting reworked. Can't do that. Don't know how to play him yet. Let's be honest, who doesn't know how to play ASOL?
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what we're talking about. And we got sidetracked just talking about...
Yeah, we're talking about the actual realm itself here. So, as for the existence, it came into being along all the other realms with the Divine Observer, like the great one.
By Ascended Gods, you mean heroes that go level 20? No, Ascended Gods in this setting refer to a specific set of heroes, essentially, that came in contact with an item known as the Artifact of Ascension. And they used the powers of the Artifact of Ascension to ascend and reach what they called godhood. Which, as we discussed,
like an elevated version of an archangel. With much worship, they get powers rivaling a god. So I suppose it'd be something closer to like a Raven Queen or Vecna kind of deal. Like they were once more, the ascended gods were once mortals, but if a player somehow managed to find the Artifact of Ascension in setting and use it, I would just take their character sheet. I'd be like, oh, thank you, I now have a new deity.
Yeah. Now, Des, I'm going to throw a curveball in your direction here.
Okay.
In terms of talking about power scalings and what have you, a star elf that manages to achieve godhood.
A star elf. It's happened before.
It's happened before, and it's possible for star elves to reach godhood. Where would they sit? Around the same as like an ascended god? Because they're not quite the same. Like they're not an old god. No, they are. Sense. They're not a great old one. So around, almost like akin to an ascended, in that sense, just not requiring worship, essentially.
No, I think... it would be... It was different. Cookie said, oh no, ads. Oh no, the ads got Cookie. But talking specifically, that was a... And yeah, Vass, we're doing gods today, and we're talking about the distinction between...
kind of.
Well, we're talking about the land of angels, so yeah, kind of the celestial realm. It's all one and the same. So can't talk about one.
Yes,
but
so
for example, a star elf. So I wouldn't say it wasn't a starless elf that did it.
No, I know that. Don't worry. I've talked about this with you at length. I know the key differences.
So Jara said, so instead of the Raven Queen that once was mortal and then ascended to godhood, but is now undistinguishable from a real god, we have super archangels that look like gods for mortals, but are still one step below a real god. So there's the old gods, which were basically, that's a very great way of explaining it, Jara, because it's basically they got powers from an artifact that gave them powers to win a war against the Jotun giants, which were beings that basically rivaled the old gods that killed an old god. The old gods themselves, though, were specifically they were great old ones that were basically floating around the void between the realms and decided that they wanted more. They wanted more.
They're civilized great old ones, essentially.
Domesticated great old ones.
Domesticated great old ones.
But the ascended gods call themselves god. They are basically super archangels, and if they stop getting worship, they will no longer. They'll just be regular archangels.
Yeah.
But yeah, so your question about a star elf, which for those new in the chat there, a star elf was the first in our setting, the first species to come of the gods, the old gods that came around, the first mortals that walked the realm. Yeah, Cthulhu with his little doghouse and his bowl and his name. Yeah, 100%. And Vass, these sound pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vass. Yeah. These are pretty cool. We have a lot of them. Pretty cool. In our World Anvil, we only have the ascended gods. We don't have the old gods. There are too many.
We do have some old gods in there.
We do have some, not all. But I think talking all in all, if you talk every deity that exists in setting, I think we have close to 100 deities.
Yeah, probably close.
I think we got like 80.
All up. Yeah, but on the Quenthian side, we only have 3 of the old gods there. They're all ascended because that's where they roam.
Yeah, we're talking the history of Quenthos. But to answer your question, the Lunar Glaive was basically Wait, Kate says, did I miss a chapter somewhere? About what? You're saying,
About what, Kate? I'm curious.
Nearly 100. I think in the old Durapan side, Kate, there's some odd 40 gods.
Yeah.
So you're talking that along with this, there's at least 75 all up. I would say there's close to, if not 75 gods. Surely. Especially if we talk about the ones that died during the War of the Gods. Like the ones that you guys haven't seen. There's easily close to 100.
I'll just do a quick tally of the old gods. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Are you counting them by hand? Yeah, Drapadin had like... so, Jara says, besides that, from the mortal's point of view, what's the difference between the old and ascended gods? Do they know there's a difference? Is there any kind of witch hunt for the ones that pray to the old new? Yeah, so that's what we actually explore in our Monday game. Raph actually plays a prophet of the old god, the dying god, whose name is lost to the annals because they are being shattered. No, Jara, don't apologize for asking a lot of questions because this is great.
Really cool. This is kind of what these Wednesdays are for.
Yeah, this is what Wednesdays are for. The average mortal, the average just civilian commoner, would not know the difference. But those studied would know the difference that, at least from the base thing, that the difference is that the old gods don't need worship. They can have worship, but it does not empower them. Their power does not come from worship. Yeah. But thank you for the question. That's a really good question. Hey, Nelderberry, what up? How are you doing? Hey, we're talking Roy's shit. We're talking gods, saints, and old gods. Yeah. Which we haven't even gotten to saints yet.
No, that's a... But yeah, so that's actually a really good question, though, in terms of, which I think is an important one to actually get to, in terms of the Quenthian side of the world, there wouldn't really be, for most common people, they probably wouldn't even know much at all about the old gods.
No, God no. They would know that there's like the Farwalker who's made a city. Because that's a god appeared in literally, like, I think we've not actually gotten into, because we've not talked about Thiel. But the history of Thiel, when the Farwalker arrived, he did not build a city. He just willed a city into existence. Yeah. Like, an ascended god can't do that, but it's like... Power. Yeah. He basically just planted a seed and just pulled his hand up, and all these buildings of stone and wood arose.
Yeah. Like the old gods, like old mythological beings that just do these great works without really a thought.
Jarrett says, in terms of the old gods ascended about 300 years ago. It's actually in setting. We're very young in the history of Quenthos. That's why there's still such an avid worship. They're still the grandchildren of some of the elven ones, especially that are worshipped and like lead the churches. Yeah. So
they're not actually too old. They're still quite young. In the scheme of the universe.
There would be some elves that even remember. For example, we've talked a little bit about Celalio. An ascended god. She was the leader of humanity's resistance against Jotun. She was the first of humanity to ascend. And she was an elf. And she would have friends who were elves who would literally remember her as Celalio, the very capable warrior they would have grown up with her, and her children's children now rule some of the cities. Like, there's contention over that because a bit of drama in setting Stelelia's losing her mind, but that's a whole plot point for the campaign.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? We're all losing our mind. He had the option to make that bitch floating in the sky, and he decided not to.
Look, okay, Cade, have you been to Theo? Can you prove that's right or wrong there? Do you know if it floats? You don't. It could.
No, Theo does not float, but you also got to remember the Firewalker is very aloof and was like, "Oh, here's a city, I'm gone."
Yeah.
Like, because he couldn't stay around them that long because, like, my dad has got. Oh yeah, well, mine is not.
If we get a $5 donut. Okay, I do not sell myself that cheap. Okay, at least it'll be $10.
$10 donut, Rapple drink chocolate milk.
Done, 100%.
And to go up, Cookie says, "Where does the power come from then?" So this is something we don't talk about in setting because it's kind of like you keep going up the ladder until you get to a final point. Essentially, the being that the Jotuns worshipped as the being that made everything is a being called the Divine Observer, a deity older than anything, the oldest of anything, created all the old gods. We go really deep into the Heresy world, but basically, before there was anything, there was the Void Dragon and the Divine Observer. The Divine Observer made everything and then sat back to observe. That's how they got the name. And the Void Dragon was then broken down by the children of the Divine Observer to stop it from destroying reality.
Yeah.
And then those great old ones came to be from the varying consequences of that situation. But basically, they get their power from literally the creator of everything, and it is limitless power.
They are I was going to say, they are pretty much just children of the universe itself.
Yes.
They are immense beings of immense power.
Yeah, okay, this is new news because I don't like talking about the Divine Observer.
The Divine Observer, for all intents and purposes, will never factor into any setting. They're there in the background of the world as a reason to explain everything, but they will never come up.
The only being that worships them is the Jotun giants. That is it.
And then there's the thing, though, is that the Divine Observer, it doesn't act as a god. Like, it doesn't give a shit about... It doesn't care. It's so completely aloof and separated from the affairs of the different planets and everything. I mean, hell, it sent down the Great Worms, the Century Great Worms, to basically ensure everything ran smoothly, and then it just went. It's not a present force. It's merely an explanation for why things are.
Exactly.
So to speak.
The Divine Observer booted up The Sims and then stepped away from the computer for the next 100 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah, it's not a mystery to be explained so much as they know never.
Really not a mystery that can be explained. There's no like churches. Like,
I mean, it's serious.
I mean, it's serious. But no, that is that's a great question, Cookie. That was a very good question. Talking about that.
That was a very good question.
Everyone got some really good questions today. I feel like
I just wanted to go back to where Jara said, "My dad's a cop." Oh yeah, well my mum's a goddess. Yeah, I can imagine some of the children or like relatives of the ascended gods had some mad power trips.
Oh god, yeah, because like they're like, "I'm a demigod," and they're like, "Weren't you born before your mother ascended?" And they're like, "Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up!"
You would worship me.
Oh no, there definitely was some power trips.
That would be a really cool villain idea. Would be like the child or like grandchild of an ascended deity being like, well, I'm of the same lineage. I deserve this respect, this worship. It'd be a really interesting idea for a character or for a villain.
Okay, so here's a new question. How's the whole... This is all technically to do with the Celestial Realm, so excuse you.
What's the process for becoming a saint? Very interesting question. As technically, saints can also be from old gods as well.
Yeah, they can be. So a saint is specifically, bar two situations where an Carl, no, you can't, but you can be a devil of Wilk. That's not a good domain.
You can become a demon of Wilk.
The Wilk demon. But no, to become a saint, it's normally someone who's done a great service, kind of like in the name of one of the deities, old or ascended god, and upon their death, they were basically like glorified by that deity, old or ascended, for the work that they did for them. A saint can never become a minor god. A saint, well, not never, but not through worship.
Yes, they can do
I won't say
something else.
never, because that's entirely the plot point of what Samael, the Saint of Vampires, is trying. One of the motives is trying to do.
But it's but it's not simply get enough worship, become minor god.
No, it's like every saint comes from one of the major or minor gods. Daria, you are the Saint of Gamer Rage. What are you doing in here? Just vibing, listening?
Saint of Gamer Rage. I'm glad you came.
No, you're the Saint of Cringe Jokes.
Yeah.
To become a saint, it would basically be like grand conquest. That would basically we talk. It's now. I think you've even had access to now. Wow, toxic. Zero support from these fake fans.
Daria, please stay. I'm sorry, Daria, please stay.
But to specifically go into it, it's like if you look at the World Envelope, you have access to it by subscribing to the channel. Really cool. It basically, there is some stuff like the Zygolia's staff was stolen from her, and one of her followers, devout enough to return the staff to her, find and conquest for it back, would be sainted in her name. Or Celelia's madness, the memoirs of her father were stolen, and it's why she suspected to be why she's so angry at everything. If someone would return to that, they hope she would saint that in her name. There's a lot of reasons for why a god would saint, curing a plague, these people who did a lot of good in life. You're talking 20 plus levels in Paladin. These people who worked their entire life, devoted it to. Or like for what Cal, Raph's character, is really trying to do. The domain is normally given, so no, Nate's given a great thing. I get that a saint is anointed by a deity, but how do they get their own domain? So it's more, the domain is what is normally relative to what they did in life. So their domain is
what they were sainted for.
Yeah. The conquest that they did, it's kind of the domain is also granted, like the slight powers over domain. Because remember, saints are they're pretty strong, but they're very minor in power, like order and such. Like they wouldn't have grand abilities to just control it on a cosmological level. But it's what they're remembered for, and it's two parts really. It's one part just kind of common association, and one part minor domain given, not even minor, because minor gods can even make sense. It's like minor domain that they have some control over, but it would exert a stupid amount of strain on a saint to try and make material realm altering effects happen. Like, for example, if you're a cleric to a saint, specifically like you were, Nate, and you used a channel divinity and it worked, you would expect that saint to be quite strained over that.
Yeah.
But that is a really good question.
Yeah.
I personally think that Celelia just needs to get over at SMH. She ain't even going to get it back. You can certainly
had a chance
try.
to tell that in character. You had a chance to tell that in character, and you didn't.
Yeah,
missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity.
So yeah, should we get back to Robosa? Actually.
So yeah, let's try.
So I think in order to get us back, let's talk about the Titan, the Celestial Titan.
Okay, there's many, so that's one thing. There's many Celestial Titans, because there is not a one-to-one, one-realm, one Titan.
Okay, no, but in terms of the other ones, in terms of the Fey realm, we talked about the main Titan being the one that's holds it in place. Is there a main Titan? We talked about the main Titan of each plane. Is there an equivalent in Robosa, or?
So there is one Titan. I have very little actual plan for it, but it's more just a Titan that I've used to explain the nature of things. And that would be the Titan that it's basically, it is formless, first of all. But the fact that each deity has the abilities to have a demiplane, those demiplanes are held within this Titan.
Oh, okay.
So, if you have ideas you want to put forward for it, I'm more than open to hearing them. But it's basically a deity that, like, not a deity, it's a force that explains the capability of demiplanes in the celestial realm.
Okay, I quite like that. Because it makes sense, because like because obviously a world itself has an infinite amount of room, so it makes sense that in order to have like these large spaces, that there needs to be something that will facilitate that.
Exactly. So it's a being of a lot of magic. It's probably very connected to the weave. It runs along the ley lines on Rabosa. I imagine it's probably almost like very small, but it runs the course of the ley lines.
Yeah.
Also, Nate said, like Vin Colin order, that clarifies a whole lot. I was really curious following Osiris. Thanks, beautiful humans.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nate, for the very good question. And if you've more, we can get sidetracked. I don't mind, because this sort of
thank you, beautiful human.
above the world building aspect, the Wednesday streams are also just like a full excuse just to chat to you guys. 100%. And if we just talk about the setting, that is fully worth it.
So I'm actually curiously, I guess on one level here, could a Titan at all become a deity? Like, would it be possible in any form?
I don't want to say it's impossible, but I just don't think it's something that is valued by a Titan. Yeah. It's like normally the kind of, obviously I have kind of ideas for most Titans like that are out there. The bare unifying factor between them all is that the Titans represent a force of some sort. Like an energy, a primordial force, the ability to make demiplanes. These Titans represent forces. So they're kind of used to explain the abilities of a realm and such. So if you have ideas for that, by ahead, throw them out at me. I will be able to hear you. I must go out to the kitchen for 1 second. Answering Elderberry's question.
Would a devout follower of a Titan be a warlock, druid, paladin, or cleric? That's a very interesting question, actually. I think, honestly, it's more interesting to talk about a devout follower of a Titan, because Titans don't necessarily have followers, because they're more of an unknown force. However, I think between all of those, you could see any of them being a follower. I could probably see a warlock, druid, paladin, or a cleric, although I don't know, I kind of would think that potentially a druid. Yeah, I think maybe a druid would probably fit best for a follower of a Titan, because Titans themselves represent like primordial, forces of creation. So I think that would be a very, very close to what it probably would be. Although cleric could kind of work. What do you reckon, Des?
Look, so anything can be a follower of a Titan, except sorcerer. Straight up. Titans and sorcerers, they don't mix. They don't mix.
Cade came up with an idea. Y'all know those frogs that give birth to young by putting the eggs in their bag? Imagine that with the demiplane instead of eggs. Creepy, but kind of cool. I
kind of fucking love that, Cade.
I kind of love that. That's a really interesting idea behind that. You know what?
Imagine it's actually just like the fucking Hypnotoad from Futurama, just sitting there, just. But mate, that's a really, really good question. I fucking love that question. I would love to see someone play something related to a Titan. I would love it. I would torment them. I would really torment them. Also, you had a really, really good question before we started, Raph. So, for the people that are watching who haven't seen much of Kingslayers or have seen much of Kingslayers, Cade, that Cade guy in chat, played a sorcerer, still a bit few levels in sorcerer, who was related to Celelio's Titan. And Raph said to me, so only Celelio of the major gods has a Titan. And I was like, I never said that. I never said that. 100% Lizefrican has a Titan.
Okay.
My next character for you, I promise. Something Titan related.
So, Des, my next character is going to be Titan Soul Sorcerer. They have Lizefrican's Titan, and is going to be Anna, but better.
Banana, of course.
Banana, of course. Banana.
Of course.
Um,
But yeah, I really let's add a little addendum to this. So, because remember the Fey Titan was literally just a small little fairy dragon.
Imagine this is like almost the opposite. Like it's huge, like it's big, and it's got the demi-planes just on its back like that.
Banana Stasia, yeah.
Like,
there we go. That is it's going to. Here's the actual thing. It's going to be a really big brain, so it's going to be Raph and Nate, and the character's going to basically have multiple minds in one. But if Raph needs to miss the session, it swaps over to Nate.
Hear me out though. Nate plays the Titan. I play the character, and they have like a symbiotic relationship, and it's like voice talking. That would be cool.
Yeah. Could you imagine that?
Let's do this.
So what you're telling me, Raph, is regardless of character, you want Nate to be your JoJo stand.
Yes. Nate, you're
I love that so much.
I am making a character, no matter what, for next.
No, you know what, Raph? Play a Beast Heart, and one of you plays. JoJo. Play a Beast Heart. One of you is the character. One of you is the Beast. Can I get some Raph brains in chat? Also, Nate, I don't know if you've seen this. I hope you have, but look at this Raph big brain emote.
Perfectly fitting for this.
Perfectly fitting for these ideas. I just love that the Raph brain emotes are able to just get spammed so much.
It's such a spammable remote. I love it. Emote.
You've been using it in other streams.
Yes,
now that is a Raph brain idea.
Spread it.
Look, Sharon said something really good to me. How dare I be out here photoshopping Raph's board to be smaller?
Good. It's a good call. I laughed at that.
It's a great meme. It's a great fucking emote. But yeah, so massive.
But yeah, so in terms of like Titans and talking about it, I think I don't know if this is still the case. I don't know if we talked about it, but Robosa acting is almost like a positive energy plane.
Yes. So yeah, that's what we're going to get into. Is
in terms of
oh my gosh, Sharon's fucking. I don't know what.
Cursed.
Yeah. Oh my god, we should remake that emote, but that octopus one, but the different segments are just AJ's arms, and we can have a fucking slender AJ. Oh my god.
AJ.
Thanks, kid. We'll see you around.
Yeah. Good luck buying some skins in League.
So, massive frog-like creature has many globes on its back. Oh my...
Raph Thulu.
Oh, I love this.
I love that. Raph Thulu.
I just need to scam Nate to be on as a guest for one more session.
Yeah.
Get him really stressed out so we can just have Nate with his head in his hands as an emote as well. Just to stress Nate when you say some dumb shit. Just a...
Seeing that... For reference, anyone who wants to see that, you can go into Cirrus episode 4.
Where Raph says, that wasn't that hard, and then everything goes to shit.
And we hear the plot of a frog devil.
A Freble.
Trying to fuck with us. A froggle.
But yeah, so let's talk about where angels come from. So we've talked about demons.
So where do angels come from, this?
Where do angels come from? So angels themselves are beings that are the antithesis. Is that the word? I don't know if that's the right word. The inverse. Yeah. The invert of demons. So we explained a little bit when someone dies in our setting, the negative emotions that are with them, that they carry with them through life, are taken and they become demons. Their envy, their greed. When a mummy angel and a daddy angel love each other very much, joke's on you. It's not that, but I have to have that talk with Raph sometime.
Wait, what talk? What are we talking about? Des, I don't understand.
Nate, I'm gonna tag you in for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when negative energies, your negative emotions that are carried with you, they're carried on to Zarkoved, the land of demons. And the same can be said for positive emotions like love and joy and hope. When you pass on, these negative emotions get brought, and the strong ones at least become angels in the land of Rabosa. But the problem is, it's not an incorruptible realm. It was before the Ascended Gods. That thing is, there was actually no evil. There was no evil in Rabosa before the Ascended Gods.
So they just ruin everything they touch, right?
Yeah, so now there is some like evil angels up there that are like of Serok that are like sworn to this.
That was going to be my question. Yeah, because that was my question. Like in terms of celestials that serve under
no angel is born evil.
Yeah, but they can be corrupted and changed by force, I imagine, sometimes to serve the command of
Serok, Anathex, Hickenir,
Celelio.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, it wants to burn down the world. Pretty evil.
Pretty evil. Doesn't want to burn down Rabosa. They can be uncorrupted, but it's kind of like trying to get someone out of a cult. It can happen, but it's not easy. But yeah, that's is that what the Celestial Titan does? No, the Celestial Titan basically manages the demi-planes of Afterlife. So all the old gods and some of the... That's actually probably a distinguishing factor is the... God, this is such a shit talk. I have never once, in character, in-game, explained where worshippers of Ascended gods go, because they don't have their own demi-planes.
Yeah, what happens to them?
They have they have Rabosa as a plan. There is an area. The souls aren't protected for eternity in these demiplanes. They are actually brought to the locations of the Ascended gods. Like the actual physical place in Rabosa where like there is a finite amount of room. So it's not everyone who worships, for example, the Zephrkin is going to be in his hallowed libraries forever. And like they would be like compressed to like some smaller scales. Like it's probably a smaller afterlife.
Okay. Well, what happens to them when they run out of space? Like, what do they do with the souls?
Well, that's what like if you talk to Zephrkin, some souls just get added into like they become tomes in his library. Like, it is not eternal paradise.
Right. So in regards, so once again, worshipping old gods, you do get that. So
well, no, you get like you're not going to be like present and ever minded.
A small plug from my boy, the Dying God. You will
I will actually point out the Dying God does not currently have a demiplane anymore.
Really?
They can't maintain it. The demiplanes are specifically maintained by the old gods. They are actually managed by that.
Okay.
And
so
they had one, but if not for the fact that the shattering was so strenuous on the Dying God's mind...
Right, because that was going to be my question.
Yeah, like, if his mind was uncorrupted, it would be okay, but as his mind is corrupted and is shattered, he does not maintain his demiplane.
Yeah, so what happens to the souls of Stylus, or worshippers to the Dying God?
To the void.
To the void.
I know that's grim. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why Starless.
Well, I mentioned that it would. I know. I imagine that they would almost be in like a limbo type of state where it's like an endless nothingness until the afterlife emerges. They're just there, just frozen. In, like,
that's a really good thing.
And like
that is how a lot of Ascended gods would try and solve the space problem. The thing is, they won't accept everything because sneaky out here. Like there is technically a deity who is in charge of the realm where everyone who does not have someone to go to, like if they were good in life, there was a realm for them to go to, and that exists, and that they were brought there. So that like the ascended gods are like, yeah, you will come to my realm, but they're like, just pass them on. I'm out of space. I like they weren't that good. Like they weren't a cleric, paladin, such. Send them on. But then some that they really did like, but if they just didn't want to like crowd their domains too much, like they could, first of all, option 1, send them on to the afterlife for anyone who did not have a deity. Option 2 is raise them as an angel in their own realm, like raise their positive emotion, give it form, let their soul embody that of an angel, that was brought into being of this positive emotions of theirs in afterlife. And then option 3 is to reincarnate it, and that's how we have some Aasimar. A lot of Aasimar are reincarnations.
Really?
Option 4, put them in a painting. Yep, pretty much. But also, Raph, I can see you racking your brain. Yes, the realm for the godless was the guiding light.
Ooh. No further questions.
No further questions.
You did say it was the guiding light.
Is you know that was not the tense I was using that.
No, I think it may have been this, and I think that may have been you admitting that the
I'm talking past tense because we've talked about Daraphodin. I'm not confirming your theory. I also did not say that they don't currently go there, because I said currently the Starless aren't going to theirs.
Yeah, that's because they're going to the guiding lights. I don't know, Des. I don't know. This could go in so many other directions here.
You just want it to be so true, don't you? For those of you that are watching, Raph believes his deity, the Dying God's name before they were the Dying God, was the Guiding Light, the realm of... Because there is some clues, and I will...
Oh God!
Yeah, there are. That's Serok for you.
I was gonna say, imagine Hickenir and like Serok.
Yeah, the evil gods. Nate, you are popping up with some good questions today, homie. I appreciate it.
Really coming up with some good ones.
But yeah, that 100% like just fuel themselves with the power. It's like, oh well, souls are also powerful, so just have a snack there. In fact, there's actually a really grim moment where in Raiders of Yozgrin, a previous campaign we did, and there was a Bon, a genie, who ruled the elemental plane of ice, and they had soul shots, which were literally souls sent to the afterlife that were then put into drinks instead, and they don't come from the hells.
That's... Which we kind of discussed that when we talked about elemental planes and genies and such, that they do collect souls. Where they get them from, how they get them.
Yeah.
That is more open.
Genie could make a pact with an ascended god, be like, yo, you got a pretty cool follower there. You want, like, you're running low on room. I got room for a collection.
Yeah.
So, we gotta get that. What one shot are you writing? By the way, Nate?
Yeah, tell us more.
Tell us more about your one shot. But yeah, that was a really good note on the Titans, and then the innate, like, what you call it? The innate, like, good versus evil in the realm. But we talked about a little bit, there was no evil in the realm before the Ascending God, so all the more reason to hate them.
Yeah, and not to call them gods. They're just celestial creatures.
I'm curious, Raph. Before the Dying God was brought before your eyes and you saw the way, did you have a favorite Ascended God?
Oh, that is a really good question.
Before you saw the Guiding Light, maybe. The light.
Okay, before I found the Guiding Lights and they had a place in my heart. No, before all of that, did I have a favorite?
Ascended
God. Favorite one? That is a very good question. See, the major gods are kind of cringe, in my opinion, and the most interesting ones are the minor gods. I did always have a bit of a soft spot for Minoa.
Really?
I always kind of like the idea of Minoa as like the up and coming, with like the growth of for those who don't know, Manoa is the lesser goddess, the minor goddess of agriculture and civilization, who, with the growth of civilization on Quinthos, has grown exponentially more powerful and is now basically on the verge of becoming a major god, which I always thought was just a really interesting concept for a god to have, like someone about to reach the threshold of becoming a major god, and who will in like the coming few centuries will play a very important role in the things to come. Yeah, so I don't know. I was very, I kind of like that, and I did some work on Manoa as well, fleshing her out. And yeah, I just kind of like Manoa. Xerxes as well. Also, shout out to Xerxes. Classic.
Joke's on you. So you think Xerxes is ascended, but Xerxes 100% is an old god.
Look, Xerxes is not on the same category as the rest of these. Xerxes is a cross-dimensional time traveler being
that chose to become a god.
Yeah. Look, Xerxes is the first tiefling in existence. Fact.
I don't know that.
Xerxes,
I don't know if I've ever said that.
Xerxes is the first tiefling. No, is it actually? Dividers?
No, you're not.
Okay.
Xerxes, his parents are tieflings.
Okay. I wasn't sure if like Xerxes is the first tiefling. I'm like, shit, that'd actually be kind of cool.
No.
But yeah, I don't know. I also kind of like Bison as well. Bison's also a very interesting one. Very straightforward. God of warriors.
Yeah, you gotta stand to God of warriors.
Gotta stand to God of warriors. And just the Bison's axe as well. The rusted axe is very cool. And the fact that his holy book is called the Shrapnel. It's just a cool name for it.
That's just... It's honestly, he's just kind of cool. He's kind of cool.
He's just kind of cool. Do you have a favorite god, Des?
Xerxes, hands down. Samael is a saint, but Samael.
But still. Yeah, I can see that. Look, Justina as well. Of course, if we're including saints, Justina.
Van Colin, of course. Absolutely fucking loves that. Van Colin has a history, a long dated history in my setting. Van Colin actually, as a concept, Van Colin predates Xerxes.
Really? I don't know this. Explain to me the story of Van Colin. I actually don't know this.
So Van Colin was actually the first major ruler of a kingdom I ever created.
Really?
Castella was the name, or Castella something was the name of a country, and Van Colin the Indomitable was the ruler of that country. That was the first country I ever set D&D in.
What was the name of it? Sorry, again.
Castelia or Castellian?
Was that an influence behind Castelia?
Yes, that's where Castelia comes from.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so Van Colin was the first king I ever wrote, and he was known as, he was trying to basically unify the world. He wanted like world domination. It was very much so like the expanding kingdom of humanity, and he was known as Van Colin the Indomitable.
That's cool.
Yeah, and that name, I don't know, I just like that name, so it got the more just side of him, of order and unity, got brought in, because Quinthos, as it stands now, is also the name of my first ever setting was Quinthos.
Yes,
it was.
Was Van Colin from Quinthos?
Van Colin was from Quinthos. It was the first ever kingdom in Quinthos. In Quinthos.
Where was his kingdom?
In this? Wait, you mean this Quinthos or last Quinthos?
No. In Quinthos original 1.0.
So, I told north. It was the kingdom that was to the west of Rindleton. That open grassland area.
Yeah. This is completely means nothing to most of the people.
No, this is just your curiosity.
Right now. This is purely my curiosity.
But no, that is where that name comes from. That's actually I want to say that is the oldest throwback in the world. Like, other than Quinthos as a name, which was decided at the start of the first setting, when I designed the first kingdoms of humanity and of humans, it was Van Colin's kingdom. And Yeah, it's
Okay, that's interesting. Because I know that as well. God, there's just trying to think of names.
Grindleton.
A Greg, right,
Yeah, Greggy,
as well,
yeah.
the name. And Saskia.
Yeah, well, Saskia was an NPC.
Yes.
And that was from not even the first that was no he was from the first adventure. He was an NPC who ran the Gilded Beard Tavern. Sazkir isn't. Have we seen a Sazkir in Quentos yet?
No, because we haven't seen any dwarfs. That's a good point.
Yeah, Sazkir is a dwarf.
And because Saskia lives in Astron, what I was thinking of is that in Darapanan we met Saskia.
Yeah. You got a bounce, peeps. Thanks for the deep dives. No problem, Nate. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for the questions, mate. That was really
Thanks for
good.
deep diving with us. It's a pleasure.
And good luck with your one shot.
Yeah, very good luck. But no, Sazkir, yeah, you're talking. Sazkir was a massive throwback. We've got a lot of throwback names because that's thing is Quentos. Current Quentos is a love letter to my first setting, just rewritten and inspired a lot of areas, like without the same like errors and small corners I wrote myself into. God, that's a throwback though.
That is a throwback. So I think before we get any more distracted, let's talk a bit more about Robosa.
Look, we're going to get more
to bring it back to
let's talk Robosa.
To bring it back to Robosa. So we've got one of the Titan ideas, which I think is really interesting. It's an explanation for the demiplanes and what have you. And I think that the fact that it opens it up towards other demigods, other Titans, is something I'm actually going to think about a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that's actually a really interesting concept. So as you can see there on the dock we got opened up. So Des, World Heart Tree. What is it called? World Tree.
The Heart Tree.
But yeah, what is the deal with the Heart Tree? And the word.
This is actually one that I don't have much for.
Okay.
So I'm open to suggestion. I'm open to interpretation. But Robosa as a land is something that I haven't designed 100% of because it's not been needed.
No, and I suppose it never will exactly be needed because it's a place that you'll have dealings with things from, but you would never have a need to go there. Like
Robosa right now is an overwhelming realm of good. Yes. So
yeah.
Normally players, unless we're playing an evil campaign, which I don't run evil campaigns really. Not to say I would never run an evil campaign, but I don't see why an adventure would take us there unless you're trying to speak to a god directly.
I was going to say, but even if you ran an evil campaign, if you went to Robosa, in terms of the power scaling of that, you would need to be very, very, very powerful.
Oh yeah, it'd be like final arc, final mission, trying to kill a god, kill an ascended god.
But in terms of the Heart Tree, that's actually a really interesting idea because I hadn't thought about that because I assumed that you had something.
Look,
because previously, in terms of Heart Trees, they've all held a very important spot. And I kind of like the Heart Tree, in the idea of the Heart Tree in Robosa being a focal point for Celestials, as in angels and non-ascended deities, but has been almost like a focal point. I'm not sure what role it serves, but I like it facilitating. I don't want to be too close to a Nahajad type of thing. I like it being more connected to the Celestials that existed before the Ascended arrived. Before they arrived, this was where they set themselves up around. Okay. This is their center point type of thing. And so for a lot of the older Celestials there and the older angels, that is still the heart of Robosa, not the Ascended and their realms, but the Heart Tree.
I kind of want to make it a white oak just to contrast the black oak.
I think that's cool. A white oak with golden leaves.
Golden leaves.
And I don't know, I kind of like the leaves being souls. of individuals that don't have a realm to go to, or like having picked up by these other celestials, like they add them to the leaves of the heart tree.
Oh, one of the leaves are the souls of the Celestials that died protecting Rebosa.
Yes, and it's almost like once they fall to the ground, and they hit it, and then that's like when a celestial forms up again.
It's like a life cycle.
It's like a life cycle that celestials, when they're slain, and like their body, like they grow as a leaf again, and that drops eventually once it's finished like regenerating them, and then another celestial comes out, and it's like it pulls the souls of people. Almost, I kind of like the idea of it, like collecting the souls of people who lie outside of the ascended or old gods, in a sense, like celestial, like they're good enough people, but they don't fall under the gods or ascended gods, and they sort of get driven towards the heart tree. I don't know, just an idea.
I've already got it written down. Already on it.
Yeah. Because I quite like it that the heart tree predates a lot of other things in existence. Like when the world was first created, the heart tree was there. When all of the worlds were created, the heart tree connected all of them. And so it should always have, in my mind at least, an echo of the old days of whatever planet it's on.
So it serves as a palace for the Jade Great Worm and his army of Celestials.
That's really good, because I think we have in there that the Jade Great Worm has an army of Celestials.
Yeah, they do.
And I think as well, it makes sense that the Celestials who disagreed with the Ascended Gods and coming in there, they rallied under the Jade Great Worm.
I think
as
Jade
almost,
Great Worm
like
used the power of the White Oak. Oh wait,
yes,
the White Oak is the anchor of Celestials.
Okay,
it is the what's the word? Fulcrum that ties. No, that's
like
not
the nexus point. The nexus.
No, basically what I'm saying is like it is the anchor. It is the tether that stops the Ascended Gods from making it back to the mortal realm. All Celestials are tied to the White Oak.
Oh, okay. So, and you know what? Actually, I quite like the idea of the Great Worm when it saw these Celestials breaking the rules. It was like, okay, like gather their strings, tie them to the tree, and it's like, this is what's holding you back. I like that. I like that idea.
I like it a lot. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Like, we don't need something massive necessarily for each heart tree, but I think this is...
No, we do. We do.
Interesting. You do, no, you do need something of note.
I really like what we... Like, that bit we put out there, it's like... It's an order for the Jade Great Worm. Literally, it's like... This didn't used to be a thing, but now any Celestial that makes its strength up to, like, an Archangel, to become an Archangel, you must tether yourself to the White Oak.
Mm-hmm. Put a thorn of the White Oak. Yeah.
No, literally, it's not that, like, sinister. It's just... Because it's good about it.
But I think it's almost like when another sort of Archangel is created, another one is formed, that's almost like another branch of the tree grows out.
Exactly.
And it's like... I like the imagery.
I quite like it. Also, I just like the imagery of an ascended god getting very, very strong, or someone about to ascend, and it's like, you're about to ascend? Tie yourself to the White Oak, or I kill you. The Jade Great Worm. Yeah. It's like, submit to the rules of Celestials, or die.
I was going to say, I quite like the idea of someone as proud and arrogant as Lezefican could be, basically being schooled by this Great Worm, like tie yourself to the tree, or I will destroy you. Your choice. I mean, I had like that moment of being humbled, being like, okay, got it.
Yes.
Yes, sir. And just like secretly behind his back, being like, fuck you.
I think it explains so well that they need the amount of worship that they do to make their way to the mortal realm. Because to try and like sever that tether for a moment.
No, they use the connection. That's how they do it. They use the connection to the heart tree to like use the connection between the heart trees to like navigate it almost.
Oh, that's even better.
But they require a lot of energy or power to do that. Because they're not going to cut the tether, because that would instantly alert the Jade Grey Worm. So they have to be crafty about it and attempt to use the connection between the heart trees to like go between worlds.
See, my thing was not so much cut it, but like to overwhelm the tether, like with enough worship, all that, but like overwhelm a surge of power on the tether that allows not cutting it. Right. But I like your idea of using like using the heart tree to traverse, because that's essentially what the heart trees do.
Yeah.
But it's like all that. It's not so much that they can't freely go, it's that they overwhelm the nexus point with that much power that it basically it supplements the tree with their power. Think like trying to trick it, be like, oh no, there's still this super strong powerful force here.
Yeah.
But in reality they've managed to sneak through.
Yeah. I like that idea actually. I really like that.
You know what I like?
That's a great explanation.
The concept of like, imagine accidentally for some reason, I don't know how it would come up, but just let's say example, the Dawn Watcher just uses the heart trees to traverse the plane and ends up in the White Oak, and the Jade Great Worm is like, tether yourself to the tree, and it's like, do you know who you're talking to?
I'd just be like, oh shit, I thought you were ascended for a second. Fuck, my bad.
And it's just like, you know your boss? Yeah. That's me. I am the son of your boss.
I'm the son of your boss. Like, oh fuck.
Imagine the proud Jade Grey Worm accidentally asked, because like as we know, the Dawn Watcher traverses around looking for their
quite frequently
looking for their divine form, and they're like, maybe it's in the White Heart Tree, and they get there and the Jade Great Worm's like, new hero to ascend, tether yourself to the tree, and it's like, I may be just a soul right now, but you will die if you say that again.
God.
Well, could
I
you
just
imagine?
love, like, that is definitely how their first meeting went.
100%. That, oh, it's so good. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like that. Which is, I've got so many other questions to ask, and I don't want to get derailed too much.
Yeah, fuck it, let's get derailed. I don't care.
I'm just really curious how Samael, if Samael does intend to become a minor god, and actually become a deity, how does he intend? Does he know about the Jade Great Worm?
Yes.
And if he does, how does he intend to bypass that?
So the answer to that is, you already know it a little bit. Samael has no intention of leaving the material realm.
Exactly. So how does he intend to bypass the attention of the Jade Great Worm and like make it ignore him almost, or like avoid it?
I can't tell you that.
Yeah, because that is a really interesting point. It's like,
you know, I can't answer that because that is literally something you will have to solve in game.
Yeah, because I can always see us like having to bring it to the attention of the Jade Grey Worm, being like, "Look what this guy's doing."
So I will say this: if you ascend, you need a tether.
Yeah.
You do not need a tether to the White Oak, but you need a tether. I'm not going to explain anything.
It would have to be something on a relative power to that.
Let's move on before you try and pry your way into an answer.
No. There's a lot. Like, it could be potentially to the heart tree, on using the connection on the heart tree on Quenthos to have the same effect, or it could be using the Onyx Great Worm, the Central Great Worm of the Prime Material Plane, using their connection potentially. or it could be to the Eye of Ruin.
I don't know.
Imagine. There's a lot of,
I don't know, Raph.
things like this.
I don't know.
I mean, you definitely do know.
You managed to somehow stumble your way into asking a question about a relative plot point that will come up in our game, so I just cannot answer this.
Yeah, no, I get you. That's why I said, like, you probably won't be able to answer it.
No, God, no.
It's an interesting question.
Everything you have asked there, I have written in my story arc outlines. I have this ready. I have the answers, I just cannot answer them.
I know you do. You have the answers to all my questions.
Look, I either have the answer or I have an answer I can come up with very quickly.
Yeah. And the issue is that 90% of my questions are like, that's going to be relevant. I can't answer that.
Look, there's no point in me trying to dance around and be like, oh, I don't know. No, I literally just have to at this stage point blank to you and go, I cannot answer that, Raph. I can't can't have you like, is it the, like, if you guess right, well, I can't answer that.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's a very, very interesting that we will possibly be exploring within the next 10 sessions.
Okay. I'll ask you this afterwards. We can go this afterwards, but I'm curious about how much does Calicindia know about the Sentry Dragons?
Nothing.
Nothing? Does anyone? This is going completely off topic here.
Do they know the purpose? No.
Yeah. But do the people know the existence of these dragons on each plane?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, as a common knowledge, no. They know the Onyx Dragon is a very, very strong dragon. They wouldn't even classify it as a Sentry Dragon. Like, they just like the Onyx Dragon, a unique dragon. Like,
yeah. The oldest,
there's never been sighting of another Onyx Dragon. Like,
yeah.
But you asked some very, very good questions that I would love to discuss with you. Probably in a post-campaign chat.
Yeah, or you know what? Maybe even in campaign.
Look, maybe if you manage to like explore enough, maybe. But like, as of now, I cannot answer these questions.
Of course. So to get back to Rabosa. Something I also, unless you want to touch on anything else to do with the White Oak.
I'm good. That's just whatever you want to talk about. Let's go.
I think we also want to talk about the moons. Because the two moons of Rabosa are very interesting in purpose.
Put them in the...
And the first one being a very cool, the burning moon of Solelio.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Which is Solelio's home, essentially, where she's made it her own. Made her castle, her keep there.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't really know much else beyond that.
Look, again, Solelio's moon specifically, I can't answer much about.
Yeah.
Because that is a plot point, like straight up. That is like a plot I cannot really talk about. Because if we go further to the point where it's like, Solelio's moon family, it's super intrinsically linked to two of the characters so far.
Yeah.
I can't answer too much. I will say it was a moon that basically had many more angels, and it so happened to be where she landed when she got pulled to the land. Because remember, when everyone got pulled through, like, their tether were formed when they started, and then they stayed as long as they could with the amount of energy that they had from the initial burst. And then it was basically they were just isekai'd into Rabosa and where they landed.
Yeah.
This was where Solelio did. And then slowly her mind started to go, and she's a big problem with Solelio right now. She's losing, but not lost, the ability to control the flames around her. So, like, the fire is just spreading. Like, she's wildfire. At the end of the day, it is. You can't control a wildfire, really. Like, you live in Australia. I don't need to explain that to you.
Yes.
Like, a lot of times with wildfire, you just gotta hope. Like, wait for the rain. Like, But that is a big bit. We can talk a little bit about Serok and their moon. So they have another moon.
Yes,
and that is where
moon. There's the yes.
It's a moon that is very similar to. It's probably like the inverse of Dragor. It's jungle moon, and it's where that, so to speak, the evil deities, the ones that wanted to use the artifact ascension for greed, the ones that are corrupting angels, which is why it's probably why the Jade Great Worm hasn't stepped in, is because they're only corrupting one small aspect. It's like it's the smaller of the two moons, and it's contained. They're trying to pull angels to their cause for whatever nefarious purposes they may have.
Yeah.
I am curious because this is something I am just curious from like you as a group, like not so much just Raph, but like the Kingfishers. How much have you theorized Samael is getting help from Serok, Hikaneer, and Anathex?
So you said in character or out of character?
Let's go both. So in character and out of character.
In character, Cal suspects that all of the evil gods are probably working together, evil heroes, and that wouldn't be surprised to some degree if Samael has an alliance with some of these other deities to further their own goals. Wouldn't be surprised. Probably suspects that, and if they came up to be a clue, would probably follow it. And honestly, out of character, I think it's very much a case of it hasn't really come up with the others too much. So this is more just me. I wouldn't be surprised if Samael is playing the part of their former, helper, their former warrior, assistant type of person. He's still playing that role for them and being like, yeah, sure, I'll help you out with what you want on the material plane, but is using their own networks and resources for his own gain to basically subvert them, because he aims to overtake them and be greater than what they are. So ultimately playing a very long game, using their own stuff and using his role within their own cults and networks, what have you.
Okay. That's interesting. That's interesting to hear your point of view.
Yeah. So I think it's a very face value one for him, where he's exploiting them. Which I have been interested to know that, because we haven't really seen any signs of the others yet in regards to Serok, Hikaneer, and Anathex and Anthrax.
Anthrax.
But yeah, can you give me any answers on that? Or?
I can't. 100% cannot.
Yeah.
But it's kind of one of these. You're probably right in the sense of like, we'll be working both fields. Like, they're a Saint Agent on the level of, like, they have power, but they also aren't connected. And as we saw in the, like, in the sense of, we saw in the Fall of Kazkorak, there was the moment where Samael never showed allegiance, was never seen with them, but worked with them post Ascension. Samael was climbing the ladder. But yeah. I think we've touched. It's a little bit shorter today. But we've touched on everything we sort of normally do.
It's very productive. Topics. Look at us go.
Very productive. Didn't get too sidetracked. Yeah, this is the last little bit of stream where we shamelessly shill. If you like what you saw, just consider dropping a follow. Subscribe to YouTube if you're watching it there. If you want to go beyond that, our Twitch or Patreon, you can access to our Worldbuilding. Other than that, we'll see you. Bye.
See you guys.